I mean, I'll admit it. I mean, I've done it, not even thinking. So I mean,
You don't think when you say that?
no, I'm just it just blurts out. So like, but I mean, like again, like that's like guys that like go against the grain and like contradict something that might be seen as masculine. Like they like something that's more feminine, and all of a sudden you'll hear them say, "Oh, dude, you're such a fag. You actually like that?" Like no.
So I think, in my opinion, masculinity is perceived in really exaggerated ways here at the college. And I think a lot of it has to do with our gender imbalance. I think people, anytime anything's imbalanced, whether it's, the fact that we're 91% white and 9% students of color, 60-something% women, 40-ish men. I think in any situation, we hyperextend identity. So we tend to see, for example, students of color who sometimes live up to stereotypes that they never would portray if they're back in their old neighborhoods. It gets exaggerated here at the college in this kind of environment. So in my opinion, I see a lot more men who probably exaggerate these hyper-masculine traits that they might not when they're in a different environment.
I mean, I guess like, liking sports, liking outdoor activities like hiking or fishing or something like that, drinking beers with guy friends, going to bars, I mean, those are things that most people would say they associate with masculinity. And
it's like our culture at Stonehill, like a big part of the people is like, a big like group of people is like just like the party culture. No one really cares about anything else. And then if you don't fit into like the masculine like bro and you're not like the party girl, you're just kind of like in limbo.
I mean, some of my professors joke that this is a sports camp, so I think that typically like sports are associated with hypermasculinity, and I think that because it's so central to Stonehill's identity, I think that could coincide.
Masculinity is almost like undefinable for me just because I grew up with my mother, so I don't really associate my upbringing with that of a male perspective, so I have a female's perspective. Like I grew up, I'm not trying to sound like going back to gender roles, but like my mom would like be the one in charge of the house. Like she was the man of the house.
There are just some guys that are just like, anyone who's less masculine than me, or anyone who I wish was less masculine than me, I'm just going to call them fag or pussy or bitch or anything and just see if I can win and be more masculine than them or something like that. So.
What do you think alcohol plays in the role of masculinity? Like you keep saying that everyone was drunk when they did it. So how does that affect this?
The more you drink, or the more you have to drink to get you drunk, the more masculine you are. That's how I've seen it.
Like guys especially, like they don't want to say like, dude, don't say that. That's not cool. Like because they don't want to be grouped in that, and like there's just this big like masculineness that people don't want to like. They're so afraid that they're going to be, like,
if you stand up for something like that and you're a guy, it's going to be like, dude, what are you, gay? Like,
yeah.
A lot of people are afraid to even be in Pride. We're like, no, it's a gay-straight alliance, basically. Like,
like, all right, since there's so many more girls here, let's see, I have so many options. What can I do? Like which girl can I pick? There's so many for me. Like, so much. So, like, or, like, another guy was like, yeah, I mean, all these girls are worth my while. So the only question is how many should I like not even which one, like how many should I go for, and then like which ones of that, how many.
Oh, it's called slunting. They go slut hunting. Yeah. Horrible term. They'll all egg each other on. And that's another thing. Then when I talk to them, like, he's like, oh, God, I really don't want to go do this. Like, we never get anybody anyway. And I'm like, yeah, because you guys are idiots. Like, that doesn't actually work. Like...
So my office receives the bias reports that come in from the college that get reported. At this point, 50% of them that are reported have to do with homophobia. And simply looking at the demographic of who's being reported, it's mostly men of that group who have been reported as having homophobic interactions.
I know that there have been incidents, bias acts that have taken place, things that have been said, things that have been written, and statements that have been directed to actual LGBT students on this campus.
I'm in an all-male hallway, and just hearing the conversation that goes on, and what the names people use, gay, faggot, those kinds of things. I think that enforces the idea that people aren't comfortable with those who are gay.
Okay.
Generally, I know people that a lot of my friends say, as long as you're not trying to come on to me or anything like that, we'll be best friends. So
people that are uncomfortable wearing their Stonehill Pride shirts because they don't want to be seen around campus and automatically labeled as LGBT.
Yeah.
I definitely hear stories of kids who were openly gay in high school and then come to Stonehill and go back in the closet because our culture doesn't let them feel like it's okay to be gay, or anything outside of this exaggerated norm. So I think that's really troubling when we are behind the times of some high schools, and we know that high school's a really rough time period. So.
A gay student transferred because he was different, not only in being gay, he was different.
He wasn't hyper masculine.
Yeah,
he was very
he had me teach him how to do makeup once, and wore it to Rocky Horror, and every so often he would wear it. And he didn't transfer because of hate crimes. He transferred because he was completely ignored. Mm-hmm. He felt like he was invisible. He said that to us.
Stonehill is very heteronormative. People just everyone just assumes you're straight unless you have a rainbow on your shirt, or you're hey, I'm gay, so
or I'm
what's
pride.
Up? Yeah.
The general way of understanding masculinity on this campus, in the fairness for this documentary, you can see it played out in the sense that, number one, because it's happening and it's so normal, you don't notice it, nor do you actually talk about it. So there could be things that happen on a daily basis that, even because you're a male or you're so used to a male dominance in this society, that you don't play it out. The guy at the gym who has to swell up and then just walks around campus with the tight shirts. I'm not gonna lie, I do the same thing. I wear the tighter shirts on campus. Just I'm not gonna sugarcoat myself for this.
Why do you do that?
I do it because I feel like socially, when you grow up, everybody has this stigma on you if you don't look a specific way.
When people, when I know there's a sports game on and I'm in a public place, the common room, I'll have that on, even if I'd rather be watching something else. So no one actually directly pressured me to put the game on, but I feel and it's not because I feel like I should be pressured. It's just that I know that people are going to judge me based on what I do in public.
Though I'm not here on the weekends, I think what I normally see is people just trying to prove that they're heterosexual, trying to do everything to over-exaggerate who they are, which I think hurts every population. I think it hurts men who are heterosexual, who feel they have, and I think it hurts men who don't fit that stereotype, who don't want to be that stereotype, who then, the space in between who those two types of guys are is really exaggerated. So it's not fair to anyone because no one's being authentically who they want to be.
In Pride, every single boy in Pride is applying for a single because they can't find roommates because it's awkward, because they're okay, now I have to explain that oh, by the way, I'm gay, and now I don't have a roommate again. It's
I think that a lot of the heterosexual guys on this campus would be offended if they were mistaken for, say, somebody who's homosexual, and so they do everything that they need to do, and I think it kind of goes back to the female male ratio, to make sure they be as, I guess, as heterosexual as they could be, have all the women, you know, be popular, be well respected.
One of the stereotypes is that a lot of people who do theater are gay. And then so, which I'm this is kind of true in some circumstances. Like I definitely know a lot of people who do horror are gay and do theater. And then so I do a lot of theater. And then so after class, the teacher came up to me and asked me if I was gay, because she wanted to make sure if I was offended or not. And then so it was kind of like, I wasn't offended by what she was saying, and I was not really super offended by when she asked, but I was almost positive you're not allowed to ask. A lot of people kind of assume that I am because I do theater and because of my personality or whatever, so like that didn't really offend me. But it was just, it isn't really like your place, and I feel like you don't really know me well enough to ask, and it was just... It was an interesting kind of situation because I was really taken aback, and then I like walked away, and she was like, "Okay, well, I'll see you later." And then I was like, "Oh yeah," I'm like walking away from class, and I was like, "That really just like my professor really?"
I don't think it's just Stonehill. But like it's definitely because it's a smaller environment, and people assume that like everybody's the North Face wearing like UGG boots wearing like straight girl, you know, or like the sports dude, or you know, like they assume that everybody fits into that, and when they don't, they're like, oh, what do I do with this?
You know, and I think once we can make behavior that's different okay, then we start to break down the hyper masculine stuff. And I mean, I'm sure there are guys who realize that every time they walk out of their residence hall room or walk into public that they've got to put a different face on, you know, and I don't think it's fair to them. I think we do them, the hyper masculine exaggerated guy, we do them a really big disservice because they can't be who they are either if we say that that's the only way you're going to be attractive to heterosexual women, that that's the only way your sexuality is not going to be questioned. And we don't make being kind of nerdy, artsy, dorky, like whatever, we don't make that acceptable for them, and we need to do that. And it starts with the student community.
I always tell students to try to challenge that kind of behavior and mentality, but you know, in actuality, it does happen on campus where it, you know, that mentality is being challenged as well too. Any way that we could bring awareness and spread open-mindedness to others, I think would be great. There are a population of students here who want to be accepted, want to be welcomed, and want to feel at home just like everyone else, but because of certain comments that have been made, because certain things that have been written on walls, on room doors and things like that, they just keep themselves, you know, from being a part of this community as everybody else.
You know, you asked me earlier about the dichotomy between our actions and our thoughts, and I think our actions will follow our thoughts. If I actually believe that you can be just as cool, or you can be just as, you know, you can be just as good a guy, and you can be just as good a straight guy, if you don't play certain sports, or if you like art, or if you like poetry, then my actions are going to follow that. But we've got to start teaching people that you can be different, and that that's okay to be different. And that's when the actions will happen.